Brock Purdy just lost again and threw an interception in the fourth quarter during the loss. But don't worry, 49ers fans. He's still going to get his $60 million a year. Isn't that what you want to hear? What's up? Welcome to a slightly later version of the Best 49ers show. We're the Best 49ers host, Cohn and Ryan G. Hensley. I just got back from South Beach. It was a whirlwind of the 3 nights stay, but it was fun. It was nice, and I'm back. It's time to talk about Brock. Because Brock...
you essentially look Cuban now that you're...
I feel Cuban.
Back from I
feel Cuban. It's a good place, man. I really like Miami. It's just... It's like a night place, and I'm a morning guy, and things don't even coffee shops don't open until 9 o'clock. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, we're done with Miami. Didn't go so well for the 49ers. Here's the new thing with the Niners. The Niners lose a game and fans are upset, and local media, national media, all kind of media people rush to their platform to reassure 49er fans that Brock Purdy's still going to get $60 million a year, as if that's what fans want to hear right after watching Purdy throw the game-losing pick in the fourth quarter yet again.
Yeah.
Do you think fans are beginning to turn on Brock Purdy, who's been one of the biggest fan favorites I can remember?
I think it's happening slowly. I mean, I think all 49er fans like Brock Purdy, myself included, as a person and as a leader. The things he says, he could come on in the press conference and admit that, he has to do better, the mistakes he made. We all like that about Brock Purdy, the guy that buys, Toyotas for his offensive line, that guy. We all like him as a person. But as a quarterback, what he's done this year has turned some heads. More recently, his last few games has been even more so in that regard. And then it doesn't help when stories come out that he's going to want to set the market, the quarterback market. So now you're changing it, right? Like Brock Purdy at $1 million. Yeah, that's good. Brock Purdy at $60 million after performing the way he has recently. That's going to change some people's opinions about him.
Yeah. And I think he had a really big, every starting quarterback has a fan base. He had a pretty specific fan base. And I think they didn't really understand who he is. They projected a lot of stuff on him, like, he's a humble farmer Christian from Iowa. He's not, and he's not gonna want $60 million a year. He's gonna give the Niners a discount. And then when the season started going down, I think a lot of Niner fans were thinking, they're definitely gonna get a discount now. It's gonna be 3 years. It's gonna be the Baker Mayfield deal. And then I think the timing of the leaks right after losing to the Rams, scoring 6 points, getting eliminated essentially from the playoffs. Then the leaks come out that no, he's going to get $60 million a year. And you have people like Richard Sherman saying, sorry, folks, if that's the business and you don't know ball, if you have a problem with that. I think it's easy for the average Joe to push back and be like, wow, this is not right.
Yeah, Brock is not a farmer. He's the son of a businessman. His dad owns a hot tub business, right?
And his dad was a pro athlete too, a minor league baseball player, but a pro athlete.
Yeah, he's the son of a businessman, and they have turned on him. I threw out a poll, I took a poll on Twitter.
Damn.
After the game yesterday, the question was, is Brock the future franchise quarterback for the 49ers? Had I ran that poll last year after the season, probably 85%.
2 weeks ago after the Chicago Bears game?
Right. If I would have thrown it out there, it would have been different. Right now, though, 53% said no. A majority of the people that voted, and it's a lot of people voted, it's like 3,500 people voted so far. 53% said no, he's not the future quarterback for the 49ers. That's concerning. So basically, we're back to the Jimmy era where the fan base is divided in half about the quarterback. That's where we're at right now.
Also, he's played almost 50 games. And I think it's easy to see a guy play well for half a year or a year and a half and get excited because you can project. You can say, "Oh, he's only getting better. You know, his arrow's up. He's so young." But we saw it with Jimmy. We saw it with Kaepernick. Just because you burst onto the scene doesn't mean that you're going to have this steady upward trajectory. And once you get into year 3 of defense coordinators really studying you, and not just defensive coordinators, us watching you, us watching Brock, like we've seen the fourth quarter pick. We know that when he's losing in the fourth quarter, he's not nearly as good as he is in the first half. Like he's kind of a first half player. He kind of wilts under pressure like the head coach does, like the kicker does. They're kind of like the holy triumvirate of chokers. Sorry.
It does make you wonder, though. Is it that's what makes me wonder, right? Like they both are pretty much dead on when it comes to their numbers in the fourth quarter. They're both bad in the fourth quarter. They're both bad when losing by one score in the fourth quarter. So is it Brock, or is it Kyle Shanahan, or is it both? But I think the concern for most fans that are watching Brock Purdy, it's not the statistics. It's what he's leaving out there on the field. It's what he's doing in crunch time, in the clutch moments. Is he stepping up and winning the game for his team? There's a lot of the losses the 49ers had this year, very, very close margins in winnable games. And as the quarterback, you know, wins and losses I don't put on a quarterback. But you are a very important player of the team. And when the ball's in your hands, in those moments, are you stepping up and rising to the occasion and winning these games for your team? And the answer this year for Brock Purdy is no, he's not.
Yeah. I think Niner fans have been realistic about what Brock is as a quarterback. They know he's not Josh Allen. I mean, there's a certain segment of Niner fans that are very, beholden to what a certain beat writer says, that think he's the next Joe Montana. But most, like 90% of Niner fans understand what he is as a quarterback. Good quarterback, not a great quarterback. And I think when he's on his rookie deal, he's impossible to criticize. Even if he throws the pick to lose the game, you know, it's easy to say, well, what about these veteran offensive linemen? How come they can't give him a better pocket? Like, you're going to give that guy every excuse. And again, I think fans were projecting like, okay, this humble young man, like he's going to give the Niners a discount, and I'm always going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. But once it becomes clear that he's just like every other professional athlete, he's going to want that $250+ million contract, which is just disgusting. I mean, the fact that that's the quarterback market now, it's unseemly. It's just unseemly. And I think a lot of average Americans are going to look at him way different when it's like, guys, you were really naive the whole time. I don't know what you think who you think these pro athletes are, but they're competitive. Yeah. They want to be the best. They want to be compensated like they're the best. Anyway, I think that's as fans realize that he's just like every other pro athlete, they're going to treat him like every other pro athlete, not like their little brother, their little cousin, little Brock.
And fans, I think also realize now that, you know, like when he's first starting off, he was on that tear, right? And there was this potential possibility that Brock Purdy was such an elite processor that he could be an elite quarterback. People were comparing to him, Joe Montana, for whatever reason. They were saying that about Brock Purdy. But now that we've had this time to evaluate him fully, with and without a bunch of players around him, with and without injury, what we're seeing is that Brock Purdy does not have that potential to be elite. He's just never going to be elite. And I think even the people that think he's our future as a franchise quarterback also understand, most of them understand that, they determine what franchise quarterback means differently. Like, they're like, he's good enough. He's top 12 in that range. But even they know he's not Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and he's never going to be.
And you can't deny that he's had the same career trajectory as Jimmy Garoppolo, even though they're different quarterbacks. On this team, I mean, you get inserted onto the team late in the season, you make a run. In Jimmy's case, he came back the next year, tore his ACL. But throw that away. Jimmy's next full season goes to the Super Bowl. Brock's next full season goes to the Super Bowl. They both lose. With Jimmy, we know how it went from there. He had a steady decline. He lost confidence. He got injured. He stopped throwing deep well. Look at Brock. He's gotten injured. He's losing confidence. He's not throwing the ball down the field well anymore. It's like we've seen this before. And maybe this is Kyle Shanahan's effect on the quarterbacks that he coaches, but the idea of giving this guy this much money as he's having the Jimmy Garoppolo downward spiral is scary. And I think the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo happened, that he put up the numbers that he did, that he had the record that he did, that he went to the Raiders and was the biggest flop ever, is going to – teams are going to hold that against Brock Purdy. The Niners are going to have that in the back of their minds when they're negotiating with him. And if in some bizarro world they ever were to try to trade Brock Purdy, some team would in the back of their mind being like, yeah, but are we trading for the next Jimmy? How do we know that he can succeed with us? How do we know we're not trading for a backup quarterback? Because that's what the Raiders essentially did. They didn't trade for him, did they? I don't know.
Their production and their path is eerily similar. When you watch them, different quarterbacks, right? Brock's mobile. Jimmy gets the ball out quick. He's very accurate on that. Jimmy is actually very accurate on that first read. Mm-hmm. You know, if he has to go beyond that, he's not good. But Brock's different. He's a scrambler. He's mobile. But from the production standpoint, right, they go 9 games, do really well. They both get injured. 9 games in, both of them.
UCL, ACL.
Both of them at the same time. And then you look at their production since the injury. They go to a Super Bowl. Their numbers are almost identical at this point in their career. Like it's eerily similar, that their production and the path that they've been on. I still prefer Brock over Jimmy because I like his mobility. But it's got to be very concerning for a lot of people. And it seems like it is now that he's going to get paid. That's the thing.
And again, it's never a problem to have a good quarterback making $1 million a year. That's never a problem. So whatever he does, he's not top 5, making $1 million a year. But it is a problem to pay $60 million a year for a good quarterback. Yeah. Good isn't good enough at $60 million a year, unfortunately. You got to be top 5 minimum. And he never was, never will be. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing to swallow right now for fans, myself included. It's just like this dude's never going to be elite. I think we all know that now, even as biggest supporters. You know, depending on what your definition of elite is, I think most people realize Brock Purdy's not going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, and then we're going to pay him elite money. Like that's tough. That's tough. That feels like we're setting ourselves up for failure for years to come.
And it's like this organization has leverage. If it were the DeBartolos, they would use the leverage. He's under contract next year. He's coming off a down season. He hasn't earned an extension. You give a guy an extension early as soon as he's eligible for one because he's coming off an all-pro year and you feel like you have no choice or you're eager to lock him up. Like he has proven that he's a franchise cornerstone. Brock hasn't done that. And to make him one of the highest paid players in the league, like by far the highest paid player in the team, I don't even know if it would how the locker room would take it. I mean, they see what he's doing. You don't think that they're holding him responsible for some of this when he's the one scrambling around, getting sacked and throwing picks?
Yeah, it's not a good look, man. That's what I guess I was so upset about last night when I did my reaction show. Is like, we can't beat the Dolphins. Like, you're going to throw another interception in crunch time, dude. Like, and I understand.
I heard Niner fans say that too is trash.
Right. Yeah. And what was the difference between those two guys last night?
He was the better quarterback than Brock. I'm sorry. Tua didn't throw a pick on 1st and 10 in the fourth quarter that he didn't have to throw. Oh, he got hit. Who the hell asked you to throw that ball? And we saw the all 22. The nickel was right there. You weren't going to layer the ball over him. It was a bad throw, bad decision.
I think what we're doing is settling with Brock Purdy, and that I don't like doing that. I understand finding an elite quarterback is just hard to find. There's like 4 or 6 of them, depending on how you rank them. But so it's not easy. But that doesn't mean that you just accept it, that you're not going to find one, especially in this franchise, in this history.
If the Vikings have Sam Darnold having a career year and they haven't even begun contract extension talks with Darnold because they need to see more, they need to see him in the playoffs, they have high standards. In what world, how did the Vikings develop higher standards than the 49ers? If that's how the Vikings are approaching it, hey, we're a special team. We've had success with multiple quarterbacks. We kind of made Darnold. We don't need to overreact here. Let's keep our heads. Let's use our leverage. Why would the Niners not act that? The freaking 49ers, the Vikings.
Well, Here's the thing: is the Niners have come out and said things that it's hard to back off away from, right? York says, I'm fully prepared to pay Brock Purdy the best money or whatever he said. Kyle Shanahan messed up on Trey Lance after trading 3 first-round draft picks for him, which was a bad decision. And then he says Brock's the real deal. So here's the savior. We got Brock, though, so don't worry about it. He's the real deal. He's good to go. And now you're seeing what's happening. So how do you back off of that now if you're Kyle Shanahan? You screwed up on Trey, and now what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Tell us that Brock's not the guy after he said he's the real deal? It's just you painted themselves in a corner.
I got a prediction. We've talked so much about what the Niners should do with Brock. Here's my prediction of what's going to happen. They're going to get that contract extension done with Brock really fast. Really fast. First thing in the offseason. They're going to get that done. That's my prediction. They're not going to have any holdout. It's going to be a lot of freaking money. It's going to look like $55 to $60 million a year. It may be team friendly in the way it's structured, but they're going to get it done. It's going to be high priority. They're not going to mess around like they did with Ayuk and Trent Williams. Why do I feel that way? I don't know. All I know is that with Christian McCaffrey, he wanted a new deal. He got that in 2 weeks. And then the head coach went to his freaking wedding. I feel like Brock's going to get that treatment. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get it done quick. And I feel like people in the locker room are going to be like, wait a second. How come he didn't have to wait around and go through the rigmarole I had to go through? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I think Brock's team or whoever put out that story about him wanting to set the market was just kind of posturing. And I think they know that's not going to happen, especially now. And they'll be lucky to get a deal from the 49ers. So the 49ers can do Brock a favor and make it seem like he's getting paid a ton of money. But really, when you dive into the details, it's not that much guaranteed, and it's not for that long of a term. I think 3 years is probably the max guarantee we'll see for Brock Purdy.
I feel it. I feel like the Niners are in this spot where they keep trying to like increase ticket prices and season ticket prices, and they're trying to sell to their fan base like we have a really special team with a really special coach and a really special quarterback, and we're going to be a dynasty. And they can't sell that baloney to the faithful if they start trading coaches and quarterbacks and hedging their bets and bringing in other guys and pissing people off. I think the Yorks just want to sell fans like we got the team. And if for whatever reason we don't make the playoffs, there's a reason, probably injuries. And unfortunately, like 65% of the fan base goes for it.
Yeah.
I made that number up.
I think you and I have similar feelings about Kyle. My take has always been this year, it's year 8. I don't care about excuses. If you don't make the playoffs with this roster, then I would want to trade you. I know what your take has always been, but I think both of us probably assume that's not going to happen. But if Jed York's missing out on money next year, right? Because not making the playoffs costs Jed York money. It makes it harder for him to market the product, which is the 49ers. That costs him money. If it happens again next year, I'm pretty sure Kyle would be gone at that point.
All right. Well, I want to get into some potential trades. I think it's a fun thing to talk about when you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So the Bears seem desperate for an offensive coach because they got this quarterback, Caleb Williams, and it's not working so well. I mean, he's lost 9 in a row. It's not great. Still, his numbers are okay. And they might be desperate enough to fork over a couple of first-round picks for Kyle, thinking that he could solve all of their problems and make them a modern football team for the first time ever. If the Bears called the Niners and offered 2 firsts, would you say the Niners should take it?
Do I think they should? Absolutely. Do I think they will? No, I don't think they will. I don't think Jed would take it.
Should. Here's the thing. If he's lost the locker room, they almost have to fire him. So if they could get 2 first-round picks and while concealing the fact that he's lost the locker room, I don't know that he has, but there are maybe indicators. Maybe it's all circumstantial evidence here, but the Greenlaw thing yesterday. Everyone knows Greenlaw's like an emotional leader on this team. Everyone knows he's been going through hell to come back. He comes back to try to save the season. They lose. He gets hurt again, has an incredible performance. Then they put him out again in a game that doesn't matter, and he gets hurt. And it could be his Achilles. We'll find out in about an hour. It's his calf, which is connected. So that's Fred Warner's brother, right? Like they talk. I mean, they've gone through battles together. Like they're going to be friends forever. You heard both Bosa and Warner after the game say we got to protect Dre from himself. It sounded like they talked about it. They had the same phrasing, and that seems like it finally dawned on them. Like, Kyle's not going to protect any of us.
Yeah.
He's going to run all of us into the ground. He did it to Dre. He did it to McCaffrey. He did it to Elijah Mitchell. He did it. I mean, he just does it. He keeps doing it. And it doesn't matter if you're Dre Greenlaw, who made all these freaking plays the last 5 years and is coming back from this brutal injury. Like, sorry, buddy, go in there and help Kyle Shanahan's legacy. Like, if that's what what players are starting to look at him like, then he's got to go to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bears did it, I would jump on it, but I don't.
Bears got to initiate the call, right? They got to call the Niners.
Yeah, and I don't know if Jed would accept it. Honestly, I don't know. It seems like Jed might.
I think he's scared in his ability to replace Kyle.
Right. Yeah. That's my thing. Is like he's probably thinking, look how much money I've made over the last 8 years. Do I really want to put that at risk? I think if he starts seeing it on his bottom line, which would mean another year, next year, of not making the playoffs, then that's when it's going to be pretty much a done deal at that point.
But here's the thing, though. If you wait until next year and they have another losing season, and then it's like, all right, we're out. Well, you're not getting 2 first-round picks from him at that point because everyone else is going to have a different opinion of Kyle at that point. It's like the Deebo situation.
Yeah.
If you want to bring him back one more year to really learn what you think you don't know yet, fine. But if it's bad, you miss your opportunity to get a lot. And now you're possibly firing the guy or trading him for whatever, God knows what. It's the same as the Deebo situation. So if you think he really could bounce back next year, then yeah, keep him. But if you think he's lost the locker room and his offense isn't hitting like he used to, and he really doesn't bring much to the team anymore, in fact, he's part of the problem, then that's your secret, and you got to trade him before the rest of the league figures it out because they could figure it out in the next, 12 months or less.
Let's say he lost some of these older players.
Yep.
A way to get him to move on from that problem.
Trade him.
Get rid of the players.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So that's another way. Like they could
you
look
know
at
what
it,
I'm
like,
saying? Well, why don't we go through some of these players and talk about who should stay and who should go? Before we do, let's hit some super chats.
Yeah.
Matt McEwen says most of the Purdy cult comes from Jimmy Stans. I think there is a definite overlap in the Venn diagrams, but there is something very unique about the Purdy group. It's people that really are. I'm not trying to be condescending here. Like that really like the humble part of his story. He was the last pick.
Yeah,
he's the last pick. He shops at Kohl's. He has a roommate. Yeah. He's not motivated by money and material things. It's like, yeah, okay, that's a real fantasy. That's like the throwback of I like athletes before free agency, that kind of stuff. Like, that's not him.
I think I'm pretty cautious with quarterbacks because of the history of this organization. Like we thought Cap was that guy. Then it turned out he wasn't that guy. We thought Jimmy might have been that guy. Then we found out he's not that guy. And now people are going through it with Brock again. And that's kind of why I was a little cautious, like really analyzing Brock, like really giving in to Brock. Like, is this really that guy? Because I've been through it. And I think a lot of fans just want to have that guy. And I think they're unwilling to accept when they realize that he's not.
Also, how many major extensions have the Niners given out to guys they drafted? Like how many of those extensions went to people who were able to maintain their level of excellence after the extension? How many guys could do it on this team?
Kittle, Trent Williams, and Kittle. That's
maybe Warner.
3. Warner, Triddle. Yep. Yeah.
of like mega extensions, not Bosa.
No,
And even
not
Trent
Bosa.
Williams, like he did the first time, but then he got another extension this year. Now it's like,
Yeah, I mean that's just like you're doing it at an old age. He's going through a lot personally, but I would count Trent because of the first extension,
yeah, for
and
sure.
then Kittle, Warner, but not a ton.
Not a
of
ton.
guys. Yeah.
Matt McEwen says most pressure this year for his contract chokes, most pressure in a game to win it chokes, anti-clutch Purdy. Yeah. His quarterback, in the second half this year, Purdy's got 7 touchdown passes and 8 picks in the second half of games. It's not great. That's the kind of thing you'd associate with like Jared Goff or something. Big Tim 3 says Brock is a professional quarterback. The good things he does is what's expected. No it factor to him. Makes no one better. What was the best throw he made against the?
See, I was thinking about this all night long. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's doing great." Like, not. I think he had one pass completed at 21 yards. Nothing
to
really deep.
Pearsall?
Yeah, and then the only real good pass I think he had was that it was the same pass he got intercepted on, but earlier I think it was in the second quarter. He layer throw against zone that that in route that they always do. Yeah, I think that was his best throw in the entire game, and even that wasn't like. Wow, there was no wow factor to Brock. And something too, like real quick, I want to share is Brock's first year, he was 33 in big time throws over 20 yards. He was 33rd in the NFL in big time throws over 20 yards. That's why I called him Dink and Dunk. Last year, he figured it out with Brandon Ayuk, and he was 10th. This year, he's 38th in big time throws over 20 yards. So he's worse than his rookie year at taking the top off and making those big time D throws. So he's back to the way how he was as a rookie.
Yikes. Matt McEwen says other teams' fans want us to pay Purdy the bag more than our fans. That is true. Yeah. Gold Tao says prorate contract for wet weather games, great opposing defenses, and no offensive player of the year in backfield games. Pretty much. Daza0187 says sounds like front office have made up their minds. But how can you pay Brock Purdy more than Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Stafford? Watch the games. He's not on that level. Agree. Richard Evangelista says, so what if Purdy does become elite? He just blossomed late.
I just, the thing, like how, it's got to be all mental for Brock. He doesn't have the physical attributes to be elite. We know that now, right? He does not have the arm talent to be elite.
Right.
He's not running through guys like Josh Allen. Or he's not Lamar Jackson. So he doesn't have the running ability of an elite quarterback or the arm of an elite quarterback. So it's got to come from his mind. He has to be the best processor that the league has seen in years to become elite. And he hasn't shown any signs of that this year. So I don't think so.
Yeah, and we're seeing like reclamation projects and late blooming quarterbacks this year for sure. But these are guys who were like number 1 picks, top 3 picks. In Gino's case, a second round pick, guys that had physical traits that couldn't put it together or were given up on too early. So what if Purdy does become elite? Got you. Official Beta Music 88 says, is Barty going to stream from your house next? He started streaming from the coach's box.
Yeah.
In his defense, they don't let you like film on the field in Miami for whatever reason. But also, like, he stole everything I ever did. Dazza says Niners need a new DC special teams coach. Kyle, offense figured out. Need half a new defense, new O-line, and we're going to pay a fringe top 10 quarterback $60 million a year. But we're going to be great next year, exclamation point. Pretty much. Don't question it. David Baker says, all I want for Christmas is a new head coach. Come on, Chicago. And an improved O-line, says David Baker. Yeah. Mike Drops with Monza said this 2 years ago. Elevate Peter's full roster authority and can fire head coach. Jed needs to insulate himself from bad decisions. He screwed himself at the mercy of Kyle and Brock's contract, a rock and hard place. I just don't see how you could let Kyle Shanahan make another decision on a big contract after he gave out the one to Ayuk and McCaffrey and Trent. It's like,
Let me ask you a question, Grant. Would you rather take a flyer on a new quarterback and keep Kyle, or take a flyer on a new coach and keep Brock?
The second one. Even though keeping Brock is scary because he might be a backup quarterback like Jimmy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'd start over with both. Mark MC says, I'm watching on TV. Brock is shaking out his arm before game. starts in the whole game. Do you not see this being close up, Grant? Ask Brock straight question. Is your arm 100%?
You know, he was asked last week, and it was the most.
It's good.
It was the horror. It was the worst way to say my arm. If someone asked me, Ryan, are you 100%? Yeah, I'm good. That's the answer. Not Brock talked for like, it was like 30 seconds of saying, yeah, I'm good. Like, no.
Which means I'm not good.
Yeah.
Mike Drops with Monza says Brock wouldn't fetch a second on the trade market. Maybe not. Bill Kennedy says Lombardi thinks Brock should get $100 million per season. B Cruising 302 says some media, not you guys, are so caught up with numbers, analytics, when you can just look up and see the product in front of you. Not elite. Brock Purdy.
That's where we're at.
You can't watch football on your own and understand it. You need someone else to give you advanced statistics so that
That's
you can
where we're
understand
at.
what you're watching.
That's where we're at with Brock. We know he's not elite. Everyone should know that. Now it's like, he's good. How good? You know, that's where we're at with Brock. I just don't see it changing.
Hold on.
I'll come over there.
There we go. There we go. All right. We're sleeping now. Sleeper pick time. We got a game tonight. Saints, Packers. God, the Saints suck.
Yeah, they do.
They sucked. Jordan Love. Hold on. Do we got Niners in here yet? Possible? No. I don't want to do tonight's game. I've decided I don't want to do tonight's. Let's do Wednesday's game. Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Mahomes. 255.5 passing yards, or we could do the 18.5 rushing yards.
What about touchdowns?
1.5.
What about interceptions? What does that look like? Hey, he hasn't thrown an interception in a while, huh? He's due.
Against Pittsburgh on Christmas.
Christmas present for Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
Okay, Russell Wilson. He's been struggling.
Yeah, he has. What is his attempts? Do they have attempts or just completions? What is completion?
Attempts.
31.5. He's going to go over that.
Okay. Why?
Playing the Chiefs, man. He's going to have to be passing that whole time. And he passes a lot of short passes, man.
Okay. Travis Kelce. Reception yards, touchdowns.
Man, I don't feel good about picking anything with this guy right now, but what do you say?
With the power of Taylor Swift, more.
Oh, no, I was going to say Beyonce's performing at halftime, but I think that's the Houston game. She's performing.
Oh, okay. She's from Houston. Nuke Hopkins, 35.5 receiving yards.
Man, he's right there.
Or 3.5 catches. 3.5.
Yeah, let's go about it. Yeah.
Okay. Najee Harris, boy, he's pretty mid. 45.5 rushing yards or 11.5 rushing attempts.
Isn't that a Bay Area cat? Yeah.
Antioch.
Go on the attempts.
They won't let us. Sorry. I don't know why. They blocked the combination.
So what are we doing?
Yards, 45.5. Yards? I'm going to say less.
I say less on this one because we got Russell going over on attempts. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, 34.5 yards or touchdown.
I don't like those.
34.5.
You like it?
Yeah, I like that.
Go for it.
I like Kareem Hunt. That's the last one. Let's stick at 6. Flex it. Submit the entry. What are you talking about?
They think you're in Florida still?
What? Oh, we got it. Yes. Done. You just got to do it twice sometimes. Download the app yourself. Use promo code Cohn, COHN, and get entered to win a signed George Kittle jersey. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Get that jersey. All right. We're talking trades. After the game, Mike McDaniel goes up to some of his former players. What was it? Fred Warner. Nick Bosa, for sure, went over to him and was chopping it up a little bit. Got caught on microphone saying, so South Florida's nice.
Yeah.
Kind of in that Mike McDaniel, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge way, like saying, hey, to me, I interpret it as, wouldn't you love to play here?
Come on home.
And Nick Bosa was very savvy. He knew he was on camera, on microphone, and he just didn't even react and walked away. He's from South Florida. I don't know that he wants to leave the 49ers, but the Niners need to change something. Yeah. And if they don't trade Kyle, which they absolutely should, then the next most valuable person on the team in terms of trades would be probably Nick Bosa. It seems like the Dolphins are interested. What do you think? Trade Bosa to South Beach for 2-1s?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think Bosa would be 100% down. I think they're kind of figuring out, we're not going to win one right now. Like they figured that out. I feel like that's what they feel like here with 49ers. And absolutely, he's from Florida. It would be a huge boost. Like you're talking about like a 50% raise on his income because there's no state tax in Florida and he's from there. That's his home. I think Bosa would be all for it. And if you can get 2 firsts for him, do it. Or maybe get Aaron Brewer and some draft picks back, or send him Deebo or something. Make it a package deal. But I think McDaniel would love to have him, and I think Bosa would love to be there. Did you lose something?
I think so too. And I feel like the reason it's the move is because, like, let me get his stats real quick. Like, is he a good player? Absolutely. Are the Niners worse without him? Of course. But he's making $34 million a year. He's got 7 sacks this year. 7. Yeah. So maybe he'll get to 10 this year. Maybe he won't. But, like, he's definitely not living up to his contract. Yeah. And the longer you wait to trade him, the less you get. That's how it works. He's 27 now. So if you traded him now, it would come with a dead cap hit, but you might get 2 first-round picks. If you wait another year and he has another 8-sack season, you're not getting 2 first-round picks. So that's why I would do it right now. And then with one of those first-round picks, you could get another pass rusher. You could get 2 pass rushers.
Here's my question. Like, besides Bosa, Kyle Shanahan is the only other asset the 49ers have that they could trade and get 2 first-round picks for right now. Would you agree? Like, who else would get you 2? Yeah, it's Kyle.
Not Brock.
It's not Brock. It's not.
Not
who else
Deebo.
would be? Even Warner wouldn't get you 2 firsts right now, as good as he is.
No,
just the value,
definitely
the value of the position. So even Kittle, like none of these guys would. But a guy that's been labeled a top pass rusher in the NFL, whether he's delivering or not, this would be the year you want to trade him. Trade a year early before a year late. This would be the best opportunity to get as much draft capital back for a player. If the 49ers are interested in getting draft capital, that's the guy you move on from. And you can save a lot of money in the long run, get 2 first-round draft picks, and maybe find a better guy or a guy that – 2 guys that make up for the loss of him.
You know what's interesting is, like, the Niners messed up with Trey Lance. Didn't work. They traded a lot for a guy who was inexperienced and didn't fit their timeline and frankly wasn't the right guy. But that was a long time ago. College football has changed a lot since then. Back then, I mean, in that draft class, every quarterback was a bust.
Yeah.
Except for Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't even done that much. Every single one.
Yeah.
But since then, the transfer portal and I feel like NIL has changed college football so much. 5 years ago, and throughout our entire childhood up until about 5 years ago, a player would have one good year in college football, they'd bounce and try to capitalize on their hype. Now, I mean, there's no reason to do that. You can make money in college. If you're not playing, you can transfer 2-3 times. Like there's so many opportunities to get all the experience and development you need while making money so that you can enter the NFL ready. And now, like every single quarterback who was drafted in round 1 this year looks good. All of them. Yeah. They all look ready. They all look good. It's like, well, hold on a second. Now, maybe if the Niners, you want another quarterback instead of like giving Sam Darnold $40 million a year or Brock Purdy $60 million a year, like maybe trade Bosa, move up, and get Cam Ward and get Shedeur Sanders, one of those 2 guys, like someone who's actually a blue chip prospect and not like maybe he played a season at North Dakota State. Like, no, a real blue chip prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I got to dive in more to these quarterbacks. Tom Jensen, a friend of both of ours, writes for you. He doesn't like any of these quarterbacks, which he's pretty good at this stuff. So I got to dive in myself and see. I have seen Shedeur Sanders. He seems like a headache, man. I'm going to be real, Shedeur. So I don't know enough about these quarterbacks to decide like yet.
I mean, he's thrown 884 passes in college. He's completed 71% of them. He's got 62 touchdown passes, 11 picks. It just feels like a guy who's, I don't know, proven it a little bit. I haven't watched him that much. It's just like that resume compared to Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, like those guys aren't really being propped up anymore. It's guys who and he played before he was at Colorado, right? He was at Jackson State. Like he has experience.
I would have to see him more.
I'd have to actually watch him. I don't want to advocate that they trade up for a guy I've never really seen play very much.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now. The seems like a little bit of a distraction with Shador. He could end up being great, but there seems to be a lot of media around him and his whole dad thing. And I love Dion. I like Prime, but I just don't know if that's what I want to sign up for necessarily. I got to dive in more. He does have
see the Niners liking him, though.
A decent arm. I don't know if he has the best arm, Shador, but he's interesting. I'll give you that.
I can see the Niners liking him, though, because they like those bloodlines. McCaffrey, Bosa, Shanahan, Owens.
They like a certain type.
They like the bloodlines.
Yeah.
They like the bloodlines. I don't know, man. I think it would be interesting if they went up and made a move for a quarterback and they did it with some picks. I think it would be fitting if they did it with Shanahan picks. Like you traded for Trey Lance. Let's get those picks back by trading you, and then we'll get the quarterback, the right one.
I just don't trust Kyle to make those decisions.
Me neither.
At all. So if they're going to trade to get if they're going to, my internet is Bootsy. Remember that word?
That. Yeah, Bootsy.
Yeah. No, I was saying that I don't trust Kyle Shanahan to make these decisions at quarterback. So if they're going to go after a quarterback, I would rather have somebody else in charge of that.
Me too. Bill Kennedy says, will Niners have to give up first-round pick for Lance trade?
For Lance trade.
I don't get it. No. Chris Gilbody says, Grant, we can all guess what is going to happen, but in all honesty, what is the likely scenario when the season ends? Do we sack Kyle and John or keep both and start over from the beginning?
They're going to keep them both.
I think they're going to keep them both. They shouldn't, though. Mark Mick says, who's the most tradable asset on the team? I say Bosa, and he's not violent enough, and he doesn't produce, but his hair is pretty, he thinks. Wow. What can we get in the trade? 2 firsts? Yeah, I think 2 firsts. Read
right.
my mind. Wow, yes.
Mark Mick.
Go get Cam Ward, says Jared Owens.
Gotta watch him. I gotta watch him more.
I'd be down. Okay. So Mike McDaniel went over to Nick Bosa, made a little pitch, wasn't quite tampering. Then I don't know how Nick Bosa felt about it. Deebo Samuel, on the other hand, picked this game to have his best game of the season. Strange timing considering the season's over, but Mike McDaniel's on the team. Jalen Ramsey's on the team. He had something to prove. Do you think Deebo will end up getting traded to the Dolphins? I think he will. You got to trade him, right? Right?
You know what I think is going to happen? I think Deebo's going to be here next year. Brock's going to be extended. Kyle's going to be here. John's going to be here. That's what I think is going to happen. Would I like them to trade him to Miami? Yeah, and I would like to get back Aaron Brewer. Give me the center. Aaron Brewer is like the 10th best pass blocking center in the NFL right now. Huge upgrade over Jake Brendel. Just give me Brewer for Samuel, and Brewer signed for 3 more years. Just give me a clean trade with that. I'd be stoked, right? Or let's make it a package deal. You get Deebo and Bosa. We get Brewer and a first this year and next year.
I could be wrong. I feel like the Dolphins are interested in Deebo at one time. I don't think they're interested anymore.
Who? Yeah.
I mean, they're spending a lot on Tyreek. They're spending a lot on Jalen Waddle. Maybe if they trade Tyreek Hill, then they could bring on Deebo Samuel and his salary. But I think they're trying to get younger. You know, the team that I heard that was interested in Deebo Samuel this offseason, I heard this recently. I heard that there was a deal almost in place between these teams, and it was nixed at the last second. Tampa. Now they have Liam Cohn. They run sort of like a 3 wide receiver offense. You know, they got Godwin and Evans, but they apparently were interested in Deebo Samuel this offseason. I don't know if that they still are. Lots changed since then, but I could see Deebo going to Tampa.
I think Deebo and Kyle are going to ride into the sunset together after next season. I don't see it, man. I hope. I
have a theory about that. People say like they're friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it like. I feel like it's more self-serving. Like, why does
Okay.
Deebo like Kyle? Maybe they get along, but also like he got you paid and gets you the ball.
Yeah.
So it's sort of in your interest to be friends with him. And then from Kyle's perspective, like, do you like Deebo the guy, or do you like the fact that you scouted him at the Senior Bowl, you picked him, and he's sort of your evidence that you can actually be a personnel guy and not just a coach? I feel like it's sort of like a self-serving aspect to their relationship.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't think they're like they have a lot in common and like want to hang out with each other at all. That's not what I mean. But I think next year, if Kyle doesn't make the playoffs, he's out of here. I think Deebo is super expensive, and so after next year, it makes it easy to move on from him. So that's what I just mean is they're probably both going to be here next year. Is what I meant.
Deshaun DeVoe says, bring Dion and his son. LOL. I hadn't thought of that. Trade Kyle, get the picks, trade up for Shador. Dion's the coach. John Lynch and Dion in the same organization. Are you kidding? That they would be in the all-time defensive backfield. I mean, you'd have two of the best DBs ever. Sure, they're in their 60s, but
I like Dion a lot. He's one of my favorite 49ers, even though I only got a year with him. But daddy ball in the NFL, I'm good. I'm going to pass on that. No, I'm not going to do that. Like that shouldn't even happen.
Did you ever coach any of your sons in basketball?
I stopped. I told I'm not. I made it a decision. When you get to high school, I'm not coaching you anymore because I don't think after like 8th grade or something, like dad shouldn't be coaching their sons. Like that's not a good thing to me. No,
feel it. Frisco Shills says a new quarterback won't fix the O-line. Draft Will Campbell.
A new only.
It's funny, like the Niners were winning some games, and like remember in training camp, we'd be there talking about like, hey, these offensive linemen don't look so good. You have people in the stands being like, actually, they're all great. Like, wasn't that like I feel like Brad Graham, the offensive line guy who has all the would constantly talk about how underrated and over maligned these offensive linemen are. And then Brock has one bad game where he takes one hit during a pick, and it's like, well, we got to throw this whole unit under the bus when most of the advanced statistics indicate it's a pretty middle of the road offensive line.
What the funniest one to me is, I think Lombardi was coming at me or you or all of us, and he said, you guys don't understand how this works. Talking about the 49ers don't need to invest in the offensive line. And then all he's talking about now is the offensive line is horrible. So I thought that was
talking about all offseason about how much the Niners improved it and how it was like a false narrative that they didn't address it. Now he's like, they really actually need to address this for the first time. It's like, okay. Yeah. Isaac, $5. Thank you. Dazza says Deebo's had like 5 good games in the last 3 years. That checks out. Warren Lord says, are people going to pretend that Cousins being cut rather than traded may drastically change the quarterback situation? No draft capital, and you get to decide the contract. Purdy isn't signed yet.
I don't know, man. Like I know I said a few weeks ago they should get Cousins, and then he proceeded to be absolutely dog trash ever since I said that. But I still think Cousins is a more talented thrower of the football than Brock Purdy. He's not mobile. You would have to get him an offensive line. But I still think Cousins understands Kyle's offense and could run it exactly how Kyle wants, minus the mobility. So you'd have to get him an offensive line. Yeah.
All right, let's finish the show by talking about Jake Moody. Missed another one. He's been really bad on the road. He's 2 of 9 from kicks longer than 40 yards on the road this season. It seems like he has the yips. Anytime he has to kick a field goal that's longer than 40 yards and there's any pressure on, I mean, even in a game that didn't freaking matter, he couldn't handle it. Strong leg, not an accurate kicker. And finally, after the game, Kyle Shanahan asked about him, didn't defend him. He blew up on the sideline. And then after the game, he said like, oh, well, I don't have confidence after that kick. He kind of had a word salad that didn't make sense, which is sort of Kyle Shanahan's pattern, but clearly losing confidence in Jake Moody. Is that fair considering Kyle has his own issues and so does the quarterback?
I mean, I understand it. I don't have confidence in him either. I wouldn't have drafted a kicker in the 3rd round like Kyle did. So, I mean, Kyle's ultimately responsible for that. You don't like Jake Moody, you probably shouldn't have drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. But, it does bug me that he continues to – he's trying to hold Jake Moody accountable and kind of throw Moody under the bus. So I don't have confidence in him that basically because of what he did. Like, well, what about Kyle, right? In the fourth quarter, he's awful. When the 49ers are trailing by 8 points in the fourth quarter, he's 0-43, which is the worst since 1991. The only two worst are Don Capers and Bobby Ross. So to throw Moody under the bus the way he did, I didn't really like that considering you drafted him. He's here because of you. You spent a third-round draft pick on him, and you're awful in the fourth quarter. Why don't you talk about that? It just bugs me.
Yeah, to me, like there are certain things on this team that are a direct reflection of Kyle Shanahan's ego. Like Kyle Shanahan, I can't prove it, but I think he's heavily involved in drafting in the first 4 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that 5th round is a magic round. All of a sudden, the Niners become way better at drafting in the 5th round. I think if the Niners have a pick in rounds 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's time to pick a skill position player on offense, Kyle's making the pick. And or the kicker. Like he didn't choose the kicker, but he told his team, I want a kicker, the best kicker in the draft. Find him. So when you see Jake Moody flailing around, missing field goals, having the yips, he's on the team because Kyle made a personnel decision that he wasn't qualified to make. When you look at Ricky Pearsall committing 2 illegal formation penalties on the same drive, why is he on the team? Again, he would have been a 3rd-round pick. Kyle made him a 1st-round pick because of Kyle's ego. Kyle thinks he's a personnel guy, and he thinks he's smarter. I guess he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. I'll take Jake Moody in round 3. I'll be the only coach in the league who would take Ricky Pearsall in round 1 because I'm smarter than everyone else, and they can't see what I see. And it's like, you're not. Yeah. We know you better than you know you, and you're not smarter than everyone else. You're not. There's a lot of smart coaches in the league.
What we see right now with Ricky, I think it's pretty clear to me he's not a 1st-round talent. Now, he might be
Never
fine.
Was.
He might be fine, he might be good, but I didn't think he was a 1st-round talent at the time, and I think when we watch him, there's nothing like 1st-round talent. Like there's nothing that pops out at you with Ricky Pearsall that makes you think that guy is a 1st-round talent. Like you don't see that with Ricky. Now, he might be good. He might have a good career, but he's not a 1st-rounder. I don't think anyone thought that at the time, and I think it's pretty evident. I mean, if you look at Malik Washington, that's who I wanted the 49ers to get at wide receiver. The Dolphins got him in the 6th round, and his productions is pretty damn close to Ricky Pearsall, and he's actually faster. So it was a reach for them to get Ricky Pearsall. I do think, Kyle was at least involved on that Jake Moody decision, and I think you're right on the skill players. Right? I don't know how involved he is on the offensive line. You might leave that up to Forrester.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would agree. I don't think he's being like, no, that's the right guard for us. I don't think he's like that. But I do think he's picking wide receivers. And I think what's interesting and running backs and maybe corners too, because I think what's interesting is maybe not corners. I don't think he picked Renardo Green. But again, he could say, I want the corner in round 2. I want the corner in round 3. You pick him. And he like paints the organization into a corner like that. And I think what's interesting is they had a lot of examples where they'll double up in a position in a draft. This year they did it wide receiver, round 1, round 4, end of round 4. And I almost feel like Kyle makes his picks and then he loses interest or whatever and turns it over to the scouting department and says, okay, you guys can make your picks now. And depending on how they feel about Kyle's picks, maybe they'll double up on a position and be like, you know what? This wide receiver we're taking at the end of round 4, we think he's going to be better than the one you took in round 1. Let's see. We're not really that into that wide receiver you took, so we're going to double up. We'll see what happens. You know that tight end you took in round 3? We're taking the tight end in round 6, round 7. Mm-hmm. And we think they're comparable. You know that corner you took in round 3, Ambry Thomas? We're taking one in round 5. We think he's better. So we'll see, Kyle. It almost feels like a vote of no confidence from the front office when they do that.
Are we not sure that Cowing?
And it's like, why didn't he play Jacob Cowing?
Cowing could be better. So Cowing got a couple of snaps in the game yesterday. And I want to go back and watch his all 22, but he looked fast. Like he looked like he was a struggle for the DBs to cover when I watched him in the game. Every time I had an opportunity, I would watch him, and he was burning people out there.
Remember when the Niners used to have like a jet sweep motion before a lot of plays?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that much anymore because Deebo's not that threatening. They could do it with Jacob Cowing, but they just don't play him because I don't know. Maybe Kyle didn't handpick him. Who knows, dude?
Yeah, they're putting Pearsall in motion quite a bit. When he's on the field, he seems to be the guy that they put in motion. Yeah,
it's funny we talk about them being kind of slow on offense, but Jacob Cowing's one of the faster players in the league. They just choose not to play him.
Yeah,
I wonder whoever picked Jacob Cowing how they feel about that.
Man, he had a hell of a play. Brock Purdy underthrew him in that game where they hit him deep, but he was underthrown. It should have been a touchdown. Kind of the story, unfortunately, for Brock Purdy this year is underthrowing guys, missing out opportunities to get touchdown. But Cowan looked really freaking good. Better catch than anything Ricky's had so far this year.
Bill Kennedy wants to know, is Kyle capable of change?
Capable and willing are two different things. I think everyone's capable. Is he willing? I don't think so.
Yeah, like to change with the Niners, he would have to make a conscious choice because no one's going to force him to change. If he got fired or traded and wound up in Chicago coaching Caleb Williams, he might have to.
Yeah.
Although he's been on a few different teams in the NFL, and I don't think he's changed at all. Like, if anyone wants to argue with me on that one, I'm open-minded, but he seems like essentially the same guy he always has been.
To make a old timers reference, he thinks he's the bee's knees, right? Like he doesn't need to change.
He thinks he's the bee's knees. He thinks he's the coolest guy and the smartest man in the room. Results be damned. So things looking up for the Niners. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really upbeat, positive, uplifting show as we like to do here. Make sure you like and subscribe my channel, Ryan's channel. And stick around. This offseason is going to get weird, and we'll be here to chronicle for you.
It's already weird. Yeah.
See you guys.